Okay, g'day everyone. I have no idea if this is working. I've decided to try doing a live, which I've never done on YouTube before. I'm not even really sure if I'm doing it right, so please bear with me. I haven't advertised this or anything, so I could very well end up just talking to myself for the next half hour, but that's okay. Um, yeah, okay, so YouTube's telling me I'm live, so I'm just going to assume that I am, and we'll see what happens. If you do stumble across this video and you're watching, please say hello. I'll leave a comment or something so at least I know that people can hear me and that it's working at the other end. But I just thought I wanted to make a video to answer some questions because I get a lot of questions um, about all kinds of things from people on social media and here on YouTube. And a few of these questions um, people are asking me the same questions over and over again. So I thought I should do a video and answer some of the most common questions that I've been getting lately. And I also wanted to give you guys an update because it's been a while since I made a video. I realized the other day, been living in my bus for 6 months now, which is just crazy. I moved uh, in October last year, the end of October, and we're now sort of halfway through May, which is just nuts. But yeah, so I've been living full time in the bus for 6 months. Haven't actually traveled anywhere. I've just been parked up on my parents' property the whole time. Um, and it just blows my mind that it's been that long. It's gone so quickly. But basically, I was still working for the last, like up until the end of last year. So I resigned from my job um, just before Christmas last year. So I was working for a few months after I moved into the bus. And then this year, I've been pretty much full time um, sorting, cleaning out sheds and things, trying to get rid of everything. So I while I've been fitting out the bus, I've been living in a little granny flat kind of converted shed on my parents' block. And I've been there for a few years and I had a lot of stuff in there to get rid of. Obviously, can't take everything in the bus, so I had a lot of my own stuff to get rid of. And as well as that, my parents um, are probably going to be selling at some stage in the future the property. And so it decided that it was time for them to have a massive clean out and declutter. They've got like half a dozen sheds on the property. They were all crammed full of stuff. It was insane how much stuff we had. And because my parents aren't on Facebook, they don't do social media, they're not particularly computer savvy, they didn't want to have to deal with trying to sell things online and do all of that. So they gave me the job of selling everything and clearing out the sheds. And initially I thought, oh, yeah, it'll take me an extra few weeks to a month to do that. And then I'll hit the road, sort of around March. um, it actually took me 4 months. I'm not kidding. I pretty much worked solid every day from New Year's onwards. Um, Clearing out sheds, like, pulling stuff out of the sheds, sorting it out, cleaning everything. I sold some things online. And then just last weekend, we had a massive garage sale where I sold pretty much just about everything. So that is literally all I've been doing this entire year. So 4 months solid, just doing that. And to be honest, I'm completely exhausted physically and mentally. It was a massive job. But anyway, it's almost done now. I still have a few things in my place that I want to get rid of. I'm still listing a few things on Marketplace. And then I've got to clean out my little shack and like make sure that's all fully emptied and everything. So I'll probably be around here for the next month or two. I'm also going to be doing some house sitting probably for my parents around July. So I'm going to be around this area for probably a few more months. But in the meantime, I'm definitely going to start traveling. My plan is I'm actually turning 50 next month, and I do not want to celebrate my 50th birthday parked up in the driveway on my parents' property. So I'm definitely going to go camping somewhere for that for a few days. Haven't decided exactly where yet. I have a few campgrounds in mind that I'm thinking about, but yeah, I'll definitely be um, booking a little short-term getaway to do something nice for my birthday. Now, the other reason I haven't done any, so basically I've been so busy with work and then, you know, clearing out everything here. I just haven't had much time for traveling. But the other reason why I haven't really done a lot of traveling yet is because um, we have a few issues with Pepper that I need to sort out. So Pepper actually gets car sick. Um, she has done since I got her. She was 9 months old when I got her, and pretty much every time I took her somewhere in the car, she would throw up. I've been doing a lot of work with her in the bus to try and like stop that from happening. Now, it's very fortunate that Pepper loves the bus. She's got a great bed up the front of the cab area. She loves her bed up there. She absolutely loves hanging out in the bus when it's stationary. She's just not so keen on it moving. So we've been doing a lot of work, just doing little trips. Like initially, I literally just like went around like up and down the driveway just to get a use. Well, first of all, I just got a used to the engine running, and then it was like up and down the driveway. Then I'd like go up the road a little bit, and we'd stop and go for a walk around the block and that. So very gradually building it up. And I'd got to the stage where I could do like little short trips into town. And she was doing really well. Like we hadn't had any instances in at all where she'd thrown up in the bus. So I was thinking that, you know, it was working and that she was a bit more relaxed in the bus compared to the car. But then last week I had to take her to the vet for her annual vaccinations. And just as we pulled into the car park at the shopping centre where the vet is, she threw up. So I don't know if it's because she remembered the car park from like a year ago, would have been the last time we were there at the vets, maybe. I had given her, she's on medication for anxiety daily, and I usually give it to her in the morning in a little piece of chicken. And I had actually done that not long before we traveled. So maybe just having that little bit of food in the stomach was enough to push her over the edge. I'm not sure, but it was a bit disheartening because we'd been doing so well, and I thought, you know, maybe it wasn't going to be an issue in the bus. But so we're still working on that. I'm still trying to just do little short trips and build up. The vet's given me some medication to try. I'm also going to try, quite a few people have recommended Rescue Remedy to me. So I've got to go into town this coming week. So I'm going to get some of that and try that. Yeah, so we're still working on that. I'm not sure what I'm going to do if, you know, it is genuine motion sickness and not anxiety, and we can't really get on top of it, because obviously it's not good, you know, if we're driving in the bus every few days and poor Pepper gets sick every time. So I'm still working on that. Fingers crossed. I'm optimistic we can overcome it. But we just have to see. So I'm not going to be doing any major trips for the next few months because of that. I also still have, as I said, some things to tidy up here. The other big thing that's happening in the next couple of months is I'm actually going back to uni. I'm going to be doing a Bachelor of Digital Media, which I'm really excited about. It's 100% online, so I'll be able to do it when I'm on the road. And I start that at the end of June. So I'm thinking it would be nice to just kind of, you know, be able to still be based here while I start that and settle into uni, because it's been a long time since I was at uni. Like, I last graduated in 1999. So that was over 25 years ago. So I'm very out of practice when it comes to study and doing assignments and things. So it's going to be interesting, but I'm excited about it. So yeah, so I'll be starting that. And it would be nice to just still be here for a month or two while I start uni, just to get into the swing of that before I then hit the road full time. But I'm definitely I'm definitely going to be on the road soon in the next few months. I'm absolutely not going to be in Queensland for another summer ever again, because I'm so over the heat and the humidity. I didn't cope at all well this year. It was just horrible. And yeah, now that the bus is finished, I'm determined that I will never go through another Queensland summer. So come October, whatever else is going on, I will definitely be hitting the road. So yeah, that's what's been happening. I know a lot of people have been asking me, like, the bus is finished, when are you going to be traveling? You know, So the answer is short trips in the next couple of months, and then hopefully, definitely by October, perhaps even a couple of months before that, I'll be hitting the road full time. So anyway, the purpose of doing this video was to answer some of your questions, because as I said, I keep getting, I get a lot of questions, and I do try and answer as many as I can, but I get a lot of like comments on social media and people messaging me through Facebook, and I get emails as well. So I can't always respond to everyone. I'm sorry, but but people have the same. A lot of these questions keep coming up. The same people asking me questions. So I'm going to answer the most common questions that I get. And the first one, by far the most common in the last few weeks, I think because we've just been through a really horrible, humid summer here in Queensland, is what do I think of my air conditioner? So I don't know if you've seen my previous videos, but sort of early last year, I installed a Truma under bunk air conditioner in my bus. It wasn't something I originally planned to do. I was originally just not going to have aircon because I planned to travel, sort of follow the cooler weather as much as I could. But now, because I've got Pepper, she feels the heat a bit more than I do. I mean, I don't like the heat either, but she certainly feels it a bit more than I do. So I wanted to make things as comfortable for her as I could. And I just decided that I really did need to install an air conditioner. Now, because by, last year, most of my bus was built. So and because I hadn't originally planned to put an aircon in, I didn't really have a lot of options in terms of space and location where I could put one. I have no space left on my roof because I have 2 max air fans in the roof and 3 big solar panels, and there just wasn't room for a rooftop air conditioner, so that wasn't an option. Quite a few people put split system air cons, like the same kind of thing that you have in your house, just a smaller version. Use those in the bus. But again, you need a decent amount of space inside to mount the wall unit. And then, of course, you need somewhere to put the external compressor or whatever it is on the outside of the bus. And I didn't really have anywhere for either of those things. So my only option really was to put an under bunk air conditioner, which is one that sits on the floor and all the vents and everything go out through the floor. And fortunately, I had just enough space underneath my bed with enough clearance under the floor to put one in. So as I said, I installed the Truma I think it's a Truma Sapphire under bunk air conditioner, and I did a previous video on it. So if you search through, it was about, I don't know, February last year, I think. And so I got a good opportunity to test it out this last summer because as I said, we had a horrible, hot, humid Queensland summer with a lot of days where the temperature was sort of mid to high 30s. And I did use the aircon a fair bit. So the answer to the question, what do I think of the aircon? I have mixed feelings about it, to be honest. It definitely works. It does cool the bus down. It doesn't, turn it into a fridge, but it definitely makes it really comfortable and cool in the bus, even if it's like 38, 39 degrees outside. So it definitely works. And I'm happy with how well it works. And I, even in Pepper's cab area, I had an outlet installed just behind me here somewhere. And it works really well to cool her bed at the front. So I'm happy with how it works. But in order to do that, it uses a lot of power. And it pretty much has to run, like it's working hard to keep it at a reasonable temperature inside when it's 38, 39 degrees outside. It's working quite hard, and it uses around 900 watts of power, which is a lot. So I can't really run it when I'm off grid. I mean, if I'm running it, it does run off the solar and my batteries. My inverter, I've got a 3000 kVA Victron inverter, and it handles it no problem at all. The aircon's a 240 volt aircon, by the way. So I can run it off my batteries, but when I do, I wouldn't be able to run it for any more than 3, maybe 4 hours before the batteries would be flat. So it's not really ideal. If I had to, I could run it for a couple of hours And that's with no solar coming in. If it's in the middle of the day and it's sunny and I've got heaps of solar hitting the panels, then it's not so bad. I could run it for probably most of the day while I've got solar coming in. But if I want to run it at night, the most I could run it for, I think, would be about 3 hours before my batteries got like really quite low. So if I want to run it overnight, or on a day where I'm not getting a lot of sun, I have to be plugged in to shore power. So that's the disadvantage, is that I can't really run it off grid for any more than a few hours tops, unless it's the middle of the day and I'm getting a lot of sun. So yeah, as I said, my plan is, I hate summer and I don't like the heat at all. So my plan is, when I'm on the road, that I'm going to be trying to follow the cooler weather as much as possible. And I would hope that I'm not in very many circumstances where it's 38, 39 degrees and I'm stuck there. So, but I think if I was, because you can't always predict the weather, it gets hot pretty much everywhere in Australia. So, I have the option. In that case, I would just have to book into a caravan park or a showgrounds or somewhere with a powered site and hook up to shore power, and then I'd be able to run the aircon, no worries at all, and it would work to keep Pepper and I cool. So I'm glad that I installed it, because I think it's important to have that as a backup when we do need it, just to be able to stay cool when it does get really hot. But would I recommend the underbunk air conditioner? It depends. I think if I was to build another bus and designing it again completely from scratch, I would make sure I had enough room to fit a split system aircon, because just from what I've heard from other people, they're a lot more efficient in terms of power usage. So they're more efficient at cooling the space for a start. And then they don't use as much power. So I know plenty of people that have systems that are as good, or maybe not even as good, as my electrical system, and can confidently run their split system aircons all night with no issues. So I think if I was to do another bus, I would try to design it in such a way that I could fit a split system aircon in. But if you're like me and you're doing this as an afterthought and you don't have room for a rooftop aircon or a split system, then yes, the underbunk aircons, it definitely works. But just bear in mind that it needs a lot of power to run, and you're probably not going to be able to run it off grid for any significant period of time. So I hope that answers people's questions about the aircon. The other most common question that I've been getting lately, and I guess now that the bus is finished, people are curious, and I did the video a few months ago showing the full walkthrough tour, and then I did another video shortly after that showing how I fit all my studio gear in the bus. So I have a handmade business making handmade notebooks and things, and I have to carry a lot of stuff for that. So I showed how I fit all that in, and I think people are like, oh my God, how much does it all weigh now? And I actually had the bus weighed a few weeks ago. It was fully loaded. So everything, as I said, I've been living in it full time for 6 months. Everything was packed in. The fuel tank was full. All the water tanks were full. And it came in at 5,270 kilos, so 5.27 ton, which is good for me, because my GVM for the bus, I had it upgraded to 5.41 ton. So I'm actually 140 kilos. I'm 140 kilos under my limit. So, that's good. I'm not worried about that at all. If I hadn't done the upgrade and I still had the factory GVM of 4.99 ton, I'd be in trouble. But, the whole reason I did the upgrade was so I could carry all this extra gear. So, yeah, so my final weight is 5.27 ton. And I know some people are going to ask me, does that require a special license? And the answer is yes. So because it's a heavy vehicle, it's more than 4.5 ton. Here in Australia, you need a heavy vehicle license to drive it. Mine particular one requires a light rigid heavy vehicle license. I actually have a heavy rigid because if you've been watching my channel for a while, you know I used to have a big full size coach, like an 11-meter Isuzu coach, and that required a medium rigid license. But because it was the same price to get a heavy rigid, I basically just went for that. So I can pretty much drive any truck that's not like a semi or a B double, something like that. So, but yes, to drive my particular coaster, you need at least a light rigid license. Okay, and the other question that I've been getting a lot is, what is the fuel consumption of the bus? This is a little bit trickier to answer because I haven't really done any big road trips since I did that trip to Airlie Beach a couple of years ago. That was a 3,000-kilometer round trip that I did, and I measured the fuel consumption on that trip, and it was roughly 14 to 15 litres per 100 kilometres. Or if you think about it another way, 6.8 kilometers per litre is what I get on that's diesel. Now, back then, the bus wasn't quite finished and it only weighed about a bit less than 4.5 tonne. So I've added almost another tonne of weight onto that. And you do notice the bus slows down a little bit more on the hills compared to what it used to. It still drives perfectly well. It sits on 100 k's on the highway if I want to do that speed. No trouble at all. And most hills it goes up, no trouble at all. But I have noticed, you know, in the last 6 to 12 months since I've got everything packed in, that it is a little bit slower on the hill. So I suspect my fuel consumption is probably a little bit more now than what it was on that trip, but I just haven't done enough travel in it really to measure that for sure. But yeah, somewhere around 14 to 15 litres of diesel per 100 kilometres is what you know, what I'm getting, and that's pretty similar to what most people with Toyota coasters get. Okay, other questions. Will I be towing a car? Yeah, this is a good question. I agonized over this for a while. I would love to be able to tow a little car. Oh, I've got someone watching. Chrissy Pratley, hello. I hope you guys can hear me all right. If you probably missed the start of this, but this is the first time I've ever done a live, and I just decided to give it a crack just to kind of teach myself how it works. So I have no idea if it's working. But yeah, hopefully you can hear me okay. Will I be towing a car? I would love to be able to flat tow a little car behind the bus, just because the bus, you know, my bus is 7.5 meters long, so it doesn't fit in an ordinary car park space. It's not a huge issue because, you know, most places like supermarkets and that you could fit in, you know, if you park sort of towards the edge of the car parks, you can usually find a spot where there's two parks in a row and I can easily park there. In towns, it just means sometimes I have to park, you know, not in the main street, a few streets back and walk. That's fine. But I often think it'd be nice to have a little. I'm definitely going to miss the little car that I have at the moment that can pretty much park anywhere. And also, I think it would be nice to be able, like, if I'm parked up in a campground somewhere, it might be just out of town. It would be nice to be able to leave everything set up, you know, like the awning and the dog fence, and have everything set up at my camp and just have a little car that I can do day trips and sightseeing and not have to pack everything up in the bus every time I want to go somewhere. So it would be nice. And I did look into this a lot. Because it was certainly an option I was thinking about. I actually had the option of keeping my dad's old Hilux ute because I found out that I can. It was possible to flat tow that behind the bus without needing a trailer or anything. The problem is with flat towing is it's expensive to set up. Like, I would have to get a heavy duty tow bar installed on the bus. That was going to cost about $2,000, and then the cost for the A-frame setup, so like the A-frame hitch itself and then the base plate that needs to go on the car that you're towing, that, depending on the vehicle, ranges from anywhere between 7 to like up to 10, well, 7 to 8 9 grand for the A-frame. And certainly if I wanted to tow my dad's ute, it was going to cost me almost $10,000 to set up. And I just don't have that kind of money. I can't afford to do that. So sadly, it's not an option for me. And even like I know a lot of people tow little cars like the Suzuki Swift or a little Hyundai. Again, I can't afford to buy a new car or even a secondhand car and then pay for the expense of the A-frame. It's sadly not in my budget. So I would love to be able to tow a little car because I just think it would make living in the bus a lot easier in some respects. But yeah, it's just not in my budget at all. Maybe if I win lotto one day, I'll buy a little car and tow it. But for now, we are stuck with just the bus. Yeah. Okay. Cassie Oz, hello. Yeah, I know. I didn't advertise the live at all. I just decided to. I've never done it before, so I just decided, what the heck? I'll just instead of just recording a video, I'll just make a live. So yeah. I honestly didn't even think anyone would show up to watch it. But anyway, Dreamer89, did you ever consider converting a truck instead of a bus? Yes, I did. Even now, I still look at people. I see trucks driving around town, and I envy the square walls. Because there were so many curves and angles in this bus. It was an absolute nightmare, some of it, building it out. And I think it would be a lot easier to get a truck like a Pantech truck and just build is a nice square box. It would be a lot easier to build. I did think about it. And back when I bought my coaster, I probably could have picked up a little Isuzu truck for probably less than what I paid for the coaster at the time. But there was a few reasons why I didn't. The big one for me is that I wanted to be able to access the driver's area from the living space. Like if I was ever in a situation where I had to leave a campground, in a hurry or do something, I didn't want to have to get out of the living area and go around outside to get into the driver's seat. I don't know if that's ever going to be an issue. In all the travels and all the camping I've ever done, I've never felt unsafe. But that was just something I had in the back of my mind. I wanted to be able to access the cab from the living space. So that was one downside to having a truck. And the other thing was I know almost nothing about mechanics. I'm starting to learn some things, and hopefully when I get a little bit more time in the future, I want to teach myself a little bit more about diesel mechanics. But at the moment, I know almost nothing. And so for me, having something mechanically reliable, that I knew, I'd have a lot of support around if something was to happen. That was a big deal for me. And Toyota coasters obviously have a reputation for being super reliable. They're very common. So a lot of mechanics, even though some don't like working on them, it's usually not too hard to find mechanics who will work on a coaster. And the biggest thing for me was the Toyota coaster community on social media is just amazing. Like the people, and coming from when I first started, as I said earlier, I had a big bus initially, like a full-size coach that I was going to fit out. And so I was in a lot of big rig bus groups. And it's just, how do I say this without offending anyone? The coaster community, in my experience, is a lot more friendly and helpful, and they'll just go out of their way to give you advice and tips and support. When people break down, there's always someone in the coaster community who's around for support. I didn't feel that at all with the sort of general big rig motorhome groups. So it was just, I don't know, it's just personal preference for me. I just felt, and that was actually one of the reasons why I sold the big bus and went for a Toyota coaster, to be honest, was just that whole community and just being able to feel a little bit more confident on the road if something happened. So, but I do still look at trucks and think it would be nice to to fit them out. They're certainly a good option. Certainly, probably a lot more space in some of them, and as I said, no curves or angles to worry about. So yeah, I do sometimes think about that. Cristobal, hello. How does the bus handle gravel roads? So far, pretty well. I haven't been on that many gravel roads. Um, I did end up on a forest track up near Woodford one time because Google Maps took me on what looked like a main road and turned out to be literally a track through the state forest where I was going around trees and potholes, and yeah, that wasn't fun. I don't trust Google Maps anymore, but yeah, so it's been on a few gravel roads, and so far it's held up really well. I haven't had any issues with any of parts of my build breaking. Doors don't come open, so I'm pretty happy with how I built everything. So far, it's handled it really well. If I'm on a gravel road, I just drive to the conditions and slow down. But as I said, I haven't done a lot of traveling yet, so I haven't been on a lot of super rough roads. So ask me that question like a year from now, and I might have a better answer. Crystal, are you on the road full time? No, I talked about this like at the start of the video. I've actually been living full time in my bus for 6 months, but I've just been parked up on my parents' property, helping them get rid of stuff and do things here. And I was still working for a little bit up till the end of last year. So I haven't actually done a lot of travel. It's just been little short day trips around the place. I'm still trying to get Pepper used to traveling in the bus because, as I mentioned earlier, she gets car sick, so we're having to deal with that. So I'm not yet full time on the road. I'm hoping to be. I will definitely be full time by October because I have promised myself I'm not sitting through another Queensland summer ever again. I'm going to be heading south in October. So yeah, and between now and then, once I get everything finished up in my little studio here and I've sold everything else that I own, then I'll be starting to do more, short trips for a few days to a week to get Pepper used to it. But yes, not full time on the road yet, full time living in the bus, but not full time travel, but hopefully in the next few months. Do I have a winch? No, I don't. I've actually literally just hasn't been delivered yet, but I literally just the other day ordered a snatch strap and some recovery boards and things to get me out of trouble if I get bogged somewhere. But I don't have a winch. I'm not planning to get one at this stage. I guess I'll just wait and see. Um, you know, what happens when I'm on the road. I don't plan on doing like a lot of serious off-road stuff, at least not for a while. Don't know if I'm confident enough to be doing that. But yeah, I mean, I may consider getting a winch down the track. I guess that I have to consider weight because that would add more weight. And even though at the moment I have plenty to spare, there are a few extra little things I want to put in the bus. So I'm, still conscious of not putting too much weight in. But yeah, at this stage, no, I don't have a winch. I'll make a decision about whether I need one, down the track. Talking about unsealed roads, have you been practicing tire changes? No, but I'm definitely, I know how to change a tire because I've done it in my car. And so I know the steps, but physically I'm not, it's going to be a lot harder to change a bus tire just because they're so much bigger and heavier. And I do definitely intend to do a practice run of that before I hit the road full time. I'm actually going to be getting a full set of new tires on the bus, hopefully in the next few weeks. I'm going to be contacting Bridgestone this week and trying to book that in. So I'll be getting a full set of new tires, and then yes, definitely I will be doing a practice run, changing one before I leave. Yeah. Are you planning on doing the big lap? No. I've actually done. I've been lucky enough to have already done a lot of traveling in Australia and overseas, and there's a lot of I actually lived in the Northern Territory for 5 years. I was working up there in Darwin. So I've seen a lot of Central Australia and a lot of the Northern Territory. I was also fortunate enough to do a trip to the Kimberleys and across to Broome. So I feel like I've seen a lot of that area already. I've also seen a lot of places in Queensland, and yeah, I've been to Tassie. So I've been very lucky. Obviously Australia's a massive country and there's a lot of places I still haven't seen, but in terms of doing an actual lap, probably not, because I'm not in a hurry to go back to the territory. I feel like I've pretty much seen it, and it'd be nice to take the bus there, I guess. um, but yeah, I'm not in a hurry to go back there. I do definitely want to see WA, and driving across the Nullarbor is one of the few things I have left on my bucket list. So I'll definitely be doing that at some stage. I probably won't do that while I have Pepper, just because I'm really terrified of 1080 baits, which I know are everywhere, but WA is particularly bad for those. And a lot of what I also want to see in WA would be national park as well, which is obviously off limits with the dog. So I'll probably wait a while before I go to WA. So I'm not really sure how. I haven't really thought much about an exact route that I'm going to take. But the other thing I have to consider is, at the moment, have to come. I have to be in my hometown here in Queensland every 6 to 12 months for medical things at the moment. So I'm kind of limited in that respect. Like, I have to come back at least once a year, probably every 6 months, just for the next year or so. I'm also going to be very limited with budget. I don't have a lot of money to spend on fuel, so I'm going to be traveling very slowly. I could probably only do a few hundred Ks a week, but for me, that's good, because I can, stay in a place for an extended period of time, and get to experience it more, and interact with the people. And yeah, so I'm not going to be doing the real touristy big lap thing, because, as I said, I feel like I've already seen a lot of the major touristy things, and I'm just going to be traveling sort of more, doing the back roads and exploring the parts of Australia that I haven't done a lot of travel in. Like, there's a lot of Victoria that I haven't seen, the South Australian coast. I lived in Adelaide for a couple of years, so I've seen a little bit around there and up through the centre, like Cooper Pedy and Port Augusta and all that. But there's a lot of that South Australian coast that I haven't seen. There's even Western Queensland. I really wanted to do a trip out to Winton and Longreach this year, actually, back when I originally thought I'd be on the road now. But of course, they had all that devastating flooding out there just recently, and a lot of the roads are still closed and there's a lot of damage. So I'm probably going to put that trip off until next winter. But yeah, so I don't really know exactly which direction I'm going to travel in. But it'll be more. It won't be a lap. It'll be sort of, lots of trips in different directions, I think. I don't know. I hope that answers your question. Crystal Ball, you have inspired me to build out a coaster, but bloody hell, the autos are rare as hen's teeth and so expensive. Yeah, I think you pretty much have to get an imported coaster for it to be automatic. Most of the Australian delivered models were manuals. I actually prefer manual now that I've been driving manual vehicles for so many years. I prefer that, especially going up and down hills and things. So it doesn't bother me. But yes, if you're looking for an automatic coaster, they are rare, and yes, they are expensive. The other thing is, a lot of those imported models are a bit fancier. Like, they have extra things in the dash, and comfier, what do you call it, not decor, like, the upholstery and things in the cab's a bit fancier than the Australian one, so they do tend to be a bit more expensive. Yep, no worries, Crystal Ball. Thank you for watching. Yeah, so if anyone else has any questions, feel free to chime in. I think I've answered most of the questions. Oh, okay. So someone else was asking me how much I pay for Rego and CTP. So I'm in Queensland, and my bus is registered as a truck-based motorhome, is what the registration papers say. It's a heavy vehicle, so it's a little bit more expensive than a coaster that's been downgraded, but I think the difference, it's like less than $100 difference, so it's not that much different. So it's a truck-based motorhome, and I pay about $1,100 a year for rego. Now, here in Queensland, our rego includes the CTP, like it's compulsory and it's just a part of the overall cost. We don't have to pay that separately. I think the CTP component of my rego is about $300 to $400. I couldn't give you the exact figure, sorry. But overall, I pay $1,100 a year. That's with no discounts. Like I'm going to be 50 very soon, but so I'm not old enough to qualify for any of the like the aged seniors discount or anything. I think if you're on the pension, you can get quite a significant discount with your rego here in Queensland. But anyway, that's what I pay for the full cost. What else? Who did I use for planning the electrics? Okay, yeah. So I did all of the 12-volt electrics in the bus myself, but all of the 240-volt stuff and the solar installation and connecting up the inverter and all the big stuff, I got a professional electrician to do that. And the guy that did mine was Steve Langshaw from Langshaw Power. He used to be in Brisbane, but he's moved up north, up near Airlie. Well, he was in Airlie Beach. I think he's up near Bowen or somewhere now. But he is like the guru for motorhome solar and electrics. He's a really nice guy, really down to earth. He knows his stuff, and he's been like well known in the motorhome bus community here on Facebook for years. So he's really great. I highly recommend him. Very professional. He did an amazing job he installed my solar panels, did all of that. So in terms of planning my electrics, I didn't do a lot of planning other than like what lights I wanted and where I wanted power points and all that kind of stuff. I basically said to him, this is what I want to run. What do you recommend? And, I basically said I want the best that I can afford. And I just went with what he put in, and I'm super happy with my electrical system. So I definitely recommend him. And even like for a long time before I actually took the bus to him to get it all installed, I was often like asking him questions and messaging him on Facebook to get advice about different things, and he was always so helpful. So definitely recommend him. Steve Langshaw Power, top guy. Yeah, even if you can't make it up to North Queensland to see him, he does occasionally travel south, so it depends on where you are. You may be able to hook something up. But I think he also does like plug and play systems, so he can set up the big components like the inverter and the solar controllers, like do all of those connections so that, and then send it down to you so that then you can finish off things wherever you are. So there's lots of options, but yeah, he is fantastic, and I highly recommend him. Okay. So crystal ball, yeah, I'm now going to look into importing. Yeah, that's a whole other kettle of fish I know nothing about. I know there are a couple of companies in Australia that do import coasters, but yeah, I know nothing about the rules and regulations about that. For me, I wanted an Australian delivered model because I didn't want to ever have any issues with getting parts or things down the track if I needed it. And as I said, I actually prefer manuals, so that wasn't an issue for me either. But yeah, good luck. It's not easy sometimes finding the right bus. I was pretty lucky, I think, when I got mine. Okay. Now these other questions. What do I think of the Nature's Head toilet? So I haven't actually done. I think I did a video when I first installed the Nature's Head, and I showed like how I built the slide and everything that I put on it. But I've never really done a video on actually using it. Um, and I wanted to use it for a while before I did like a full review because like initially I had a few issues with it. It took me a bit of time to work out. So for those of you who don't know, my toilet is a Nature's Head composting toilet. Um, and it took me a while to work out, like, to get the consistency of the compost medium right. Like, for a while it was too wet, and I was having issues with, like, it was too wet and fungusy, and at one stage I had like a whole bunch of those little gnats that you get like around potting mix and stuff that I had to get rid of. That wasn't fun. So in the beginning, I had a few issues with it, and I was thinking, "Oh God, what have I done? Is this not going to work?" But I actually watched a video, and I think it was Aussie Destinations Unknown. Is a couple that like travel in their van, and they did a video on their Nature's Head toilet and how they manage it and how they clean it. And they talked about how they got rid of the bugs and worked out the right consistency and everything. And after watching that video, I did exactly what they do, and it's been perfect ever since. So now that I think I've kind of got it figured out, it's working really well, and I'm super happy with it. So I probably will do a video on that at some stage. Possibly the next time I empty it and change it out would be a good time to do a video, because then I can kind of show that. So, yeah, so stay tuned for that. But at the moment, now that I've got the, like figured out how to use it properly, yeah, I'm really happy it's working well. I love the idea that it doesn't use any water. So I'm not using, because I can't carry a lot of water on the bus. So I don't have to worry about wasting water flushing the toilet. I don't never have to worry about finding a dump point or dealing with cassette toilets or black tanks. Yeah. Oh, that that really grosses me out, the idea of having to do that. So I'm very happy that I don't have to worry about that, and it doesn't smell at all. It really doesn't, and it has a fan in the toilet, and that vents to the. I've got my vent going out through the floor at the back of the bus, and inside the bus you can't smell anything. If you open up the lid, which you need to do, like to get the urine container, lift that out and do whatever, you just get it's like an earthy smell. It's literally all it smells like. It's like an earthy soil kind of smell. It doesn't smell bad at all. And when the lid's down and it's just sitting in the bus, I can't smell it at all. So I'm really happy with it. And yeah, I'll have to do a whole separate video on the Nature's Head at some stage down the track. Dreamer, how have you found cooking on the Metho stove? Does it give you headaches? No, I don't have any issues with it. To be honest, I don't use it very much because I also have an induction cooker that I use, and because I've most of the time I've got plenty of power, so I just use the induction cooker for everything, and hardly ever use my Metho stove. I've actually, when I first built the bus, I had an Origo double burner Metho stove that I had like on a slide out under the cabinet, and I just found like I hardly ever used both burners. I was only ever using one, and then I got the induction cooker and just like used that 99% of the time. So I actually decided to ditch the double burner stove that I had, because I wanted the extra space in the cupboard to store the induction cooker and a few other things. So I've now actually gone down to just having my little Trangia camp stove, which is also a Metho burning stove, but it's just like, I don't know, if you go to Anaconda, you'll see them. If you look up Trangia Metho stove or alcohol burning stove, whatever they're called, it's only about this big, and it's just one single burner, and I just use that now when I'm if I'm in a situation where I don't have a lot of power. I don't want to use power with the induction cooker. I can just use a little Trangia and it's fine. And I've never had any issues with it. I don't get headaches. That Trangia that I have, I've had for years, and I used to even use it when I was camping inside my tent, which they say to not do, but I used to do it all the time. I never had any issues with it. So, yeah, so I hope that answers that question. I'm actually selling my double burner at the moment on Facebook if anyone's looking for one, just because I never use the two burners. And yeah, I've got the space for other things now, so I've decided I'm not keeping it. Is there anything you'd change or anything you wish you included in the build? Yeah, this is a good question. I think, yeah, I'm actually really happy with most things and how I designed the bus, because I spent a lot of time, like just a ridiculous amount of time, way more than most people, um, thinking about the design and how I was going to fit everything in. So I'm actually really happy to say that for the most part, it works pretty much how I intended it to work, and I'm really happy with it. I had to sacrifice some things in order to fit other things in. The biggest sacrifice I made was not having a built in shower. Because I wanted my massive fridge. I've got a 310 litre fridge that I was determined to fit in. So that limited where that there was only like a couple of places where I could fit that, and then everything else basically had to be built around that. And I also wanted a washing machine. Uh, and the other thing I wanted was a separate vanity sink. I didn't want to be brushing my teeth and washing my hands after going to the toilet in the same sink that I do my dishes in. That's just a personal preference. And I didn't want to have like a tiny little, sorry, my computer keeps slipping off the cushion. I didn't want to have just a tiny little sink like you see in a lot of motorhomes, like in the corner of the shower. Um, I've been in caravan park cabins and things where they have sinks that tiny and they're just useless. Like you barely enough room to get in there and wash your face. So I wanted a proper vanity sink. And so those things like take up a lot of space. And then in addition to that, I wanted a big table. So I had a lot of space to work on, do my sewing and stuff. And so with all the other things I wanted to fit in, I didn't have room for a built-in shower. And that's probably the only thing that I regret not having in the bus, because not that, I mean, I can just have like a, what do you call it, a bushman's bath with a wet cloth and so on, and you can use showers in campgrounds, so it's not really an issue. Um, but it would be nice to be able to have my own shower when I want to. And also, it's becoming more of an issue these days, as some campgrounds expect you to have a built-in shower. Like their definition of being self-contained is to have a built-in shower. Even if you're not necessarily even going to have a shower the night that you're staying in that campground, if you don't have a shower, you're not allowed to stay there. Don't get me started on some of these rules. But anyway, so who knows, in the future that may become more of an issue. I don't know. The other thing that I noticed, particularly in this last summer, because we have just had so much bloody rain here in Queensland, it's insane. It feels like it's been raining constantly for like 4 months. Um, but one thing I noticed with all the wet weather is the lack of space that I have in the bus for hanging wet things. So like wet towels, because I have a dog as well, so I need a few towels to dry her off and keep the mud off the floor and things. And I don't really have anywhere good to hang the wet towels. I pretty much just, I don't know if you can see behind me here in the stairwell, I've got like a few hooks and I can hang things up there. I can drape things over the door arm inside the bus, and I also have some hooks up the back of the bus in the bathroom area. So I do have hooks to hang things, but it's not ideal. And I often think if you had a built-in shower, it's almost like a wet room. You've got a space where you can just dump your wet jackets and towels and things when you've got, because if it's just one day of rain, it's not so bad. But when you've got like weeks of wet weather, it's hard to get things dry if you don't have the space to hang them out. So that's probably the biggest thing. I think if I was ever going to build another bus, I would definitely find a way to put in a built-in shower space. I'd still want to have all the other things that I've got in here, so I'm not sure how I would fit that in, but I would try very hard to fit a shower in. Um, I think I think that's pretty much it. I was actually going to do a video on the few little things I've changed. So one of the things I mentioned is my stove. I ditched the original Metho stove that I had in for a smaller version. Um, and the other thing I did was with my mattresses on the bed, I had a two-piece kind of mattress custom made. So I don't know if you saw. I think I showed it on the video where I did the full tour. Um, but you'll also see it if you go way back to when I built the bed. I think I put the mattresses on back there, so you'll see it. But I had like basically a single bed size mattress as the main piece, and then I had another little half size bit um, that sort of acted like the back of the day bed or the sofa when it was up during the day, and then when the bed was pulled out at night, that extra little bit made up sort of an almost double size mattress. And I've actually ditched that second piece because um, I never slept on it for a start. Like, I like to be able to pull my bed out from the wall at night so that I can stretch out my arms, and that when I'm sleeping. So I still do that, but I always just slept on the main single bed mattress as opposed to that little piece anyway. And I found when the bed was like set up during the day, that back piece just took up quite a bit of room. Like, it blocked a lot of the window because of the height of it. And it just kind of, I just felt like it wasn't really, it was getting in the way and it wasn't really serving any useful purpose. Um, and so what I do now is I just have my cushions along the back there, and when the bed comes out at night, my cushions go down in the space between the main mattress and the wall, and that works perfectly. If she wants to come and get cuddles on my bed, usually she likes to just hang out in her bed. She's a bit touchy sleeping at night, but if she wants to come onto my bed for cuddles, she's quite happy to lay on the cushions. So I ditched that bit of the mattress, which also ditched a bit of weight, which was good because they're quite heavy, the mattresses. Um, but yeah, I'm pretty happy really with how it's turned out. I think I designed it pretty well. And as I said, yeah, having a built-in shower is probably the one thing I would really try to do if I was going to do another bus, which hopefully I won't have to do anytime soon. Um, would you consider a stairwell shower? I did look at that because I did see some photos of people that had built a shower in the stairwell. I could never quite work out how they fit it in there. I think it works better if your coaster has a bifold door, because I think the stairs, like the stairwell on those model buses, seem to be a bit wider. My bus has the plug door, which is like the one that comes out and goes down the side of the bus, and I don't know, like the stairwell just doesn't seem to be as deep. So the stairwell space in my bus is really narrow. Um, and yeah, so it would be tricky to kind of fit in there. And I also wasn't sure how to properly waterproof the inside of the door there. I did think about that, but I just decided, it was all too hard and too complicated. And I really actually like my stairwell I've got a lot of storage in my stairwell area, and like, the hooks to hang things and everything. So yeah, it just with the design of my bus, it just didn't quite work to put one in the stairwell, but I've definitely seen people do it, so it is an option. I'm actually looking at different options of having a pop-up shower that I can use inside. Originally, my original plan was to get an Ever shower. I don't know if you've seen those. They're an Australian brand. It's basically just a pop-up shower tent with a little 12-volt pump that you stick in a bucket of water, and it's like a recirculating pump, or you fill the base of the shower with water and put the pump in there, and it recirculates the water, so you can have as long a shower as you want. And you can set those up inside camper vans and whatever, they're really expensive. They're like $400. And I did go to see one in our local camping shop, and I don't know, I wasn't impressed for the price that it cost. I thought I could probably do a better job, my own kind of mock up. So I do have a few ideas about how I can maybe do a pop-up shower and just set it up like in the middle of the bus in the hallway in the kitchen area that's the widest part of the bus. I'm just still thinking about how I run the drainage out, because my grey tank's right up the back of the bus and it's not really practical to be able to run it straight into the grey tank. So I've been looking at a few different options there. I've got a few ideas, but haven't quite made up my mind how to do that yet. So stay tuned. That might be happening in a future video once I decide what I'm doing, because I do like the idea of being able to have a shower in the bus if I want to. I just have to get around the practicalities of how I empty the like, where does the water go in the shower, because if I'm not going to be able to like lift a shower base up and tip it into the sink or whatever, so I need some way of running it out the bus. And I do want it to be self-contained. I don't just want to have it running out on the ground under the bus. So anyway, I've got a few ideas about that. I'm still thinking about that one. Stay tuned. Chuck in wobblies. I'm doing a coaster at the moment and just cut out the new floor today. It's a nice feeling seeing it slot in. Yeah, it is. I remember that. I think putting the floor in was like the first thing I did where I was actually putting something into the bus as opposed to stripping it out, because I spent like quite a long time stripping it all out and treating rust and painting the subfloor frame and doing all that, and that feeling you get when you like you've got a nice fresh floor, all nice new plywood, and you're finally putting something into the bus instead of taking it out. It's a good feeling. Yeah, I get it. Yeah. Just having a look. Hopefully I haven't missed anyone's questions. I honestly didn't expect people to be watching this because I didn't announce it or anything. I just decided I was going to give it a crack because I'd never done a live before. So yeah, so thank you for tuning in and answering my questions. I hope you can sort of see me clearly enough. I've got an old Mac and the webcam's actually really crappy. This is the first time I've used the webcam for anything, and it's a bit grainy. I don't think the resolution's that great. Also, it's nighttime, and I've got just the lighting in the bus. So I apologize. The picture's not that great. I'm going to be getting a new Mac soon, so hopefully if I do another one of these, the camera will be a bit better. But yeah, hopefully the sound and everything's okay, because I'm just using whatever microphone I've got on my Mac. I don't have anything fancy. I ordered the TrueFit carpet and not looking forward to that struggle after watching your videos. Yeah, I think they need to change the name of that TrueFit, because it's not a true fit at all. I mean, it's kind of the basic shape, but there is a lot of cutting and stuff. I don't know. I think I did a lot of whinging in that video. It probably wasn't as bad as what I made it out to be. Yeah, but it was tricky. Like I hadn't done anything like that before, so I probably didn't do the best job of cutting in the corners and things. I mean, you can't see any of it now because I've built over the top of it, so I'm not bothered. But yeah, it was a challenge, but it looked all right in the end. So I think the trick is to just have patience, like know that it's going to take a while and it's going to be fiddly, and just take your time. Yeah, and get really good adhesive. I think I used a Sika brand contact adhesive. So once you get certain areas right, it makes other areas a little bit easier to do. But yeah, it's not fun. I don't envy you that job. It's more of an almost fit. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, everyone struggles with it. Yep. Yeah, but what's the alternative? The alternative is to just go and buy a roll of flat carpet or vinyl or something and do the whole shape yourself. I think that would be even harder. At least the True Fit one does kind of come a little bit molded, so you can kind of see where where it has to fit and where you need to cut it. Yeah, it's not a job. And also I think that's something else I would change actually. If I was going to do another bus, I wouldn't put carpet in the cab. I would go with a vinyl. The carpet's nice, but just because I've got Pepper and she sheds a lot of hair, it's impossible to, even with my, I've got a really good little Makita vacuum that's pretty good, but it's a never-ending battle to get the hair, keep the hair off it. So, and I've just given up. Fortunately, as I said, you can't see it because I've built over pretty much all of it and I just use it for storage. So it's not so bad. But I think, yeah, if I was going to do another one next time, I might try doing vinyl because I think it would be a bit easier to keep clean. Okay. Audio and visual is good. Thank you so much for answering my questions. No worries. Thank you for watching. You've got a great can-do attitude and been a great motivator for me. Thank you. Oh, thank you. Yeah, I mean, that was the whole reason I wanted to do the YouTube videos in the beginning, was to try and inspire other people and that it can be done. Because like I've never done anything like this before, and I learned how to do it and managed to do it all myself. So I wanted to kind of put it out there and show people that it is possible and just give it a crack. So yeah, thank you. Tip: if you have a massage gun, use it on the carpet as you vacuum. I don't have a massage gun, but that's interesting. So, like, does it vibrate and kind of shake the hair up? That's interesting. Okay, well, that's a good tip. Thank you. I don't have a massage gun, so I can't try that, but that's good to know. Maybe I should buy one. The picture is fine. Thank you. Okay, I think I've answered. Okay. Does anyone have any other questions? I think I've answered pretty much most of the ones I had on my list. You'll get mini dust storms coming up. See, now you got me thinking I should buy one just to try it. Alex lives in a bus. Thank you so much for your videos. You have made me feel so much less crazy for bringing my bookmaking and piano playing into my coaster. See, I'm not the only one. Yeah, it's doable. It's doable. And I think that's the thing, like you're building, when you can like build your own home, you can design it to fit whatever suits you. Like my layout is totally different from what most people would do in a coaster. And that's fine because it suits me, and I have managed to fit. Like I said, I had to sacrifice things to fit in my piano and all my bookmaking stuff. So yeah, but it's like what your priorities are and what works for you. And if you're building it yourself, that's the beauty of it. You can do it however you want. And it's my full-time home, so why not put a piano in it? William Wilson, when we first started following you, our initial thoughts were that you had some engineering background due to the detail and workmanship you provided. Do you have any? No. No, I have a science background. Like I did science subjects at school, and then I did a science degree and a medical degree and things at uni. So my background is all like biology and human physiology and all that kind of stuff. I don't have any engineering or design background or anything. I like working with my hands. Like I'm an artist, so I make books and do paper art and like all that. And I've done a lot of other crafts like in my time. So I enjoy making things, and I've discovered since building the bus that I love working with timber and doing all that. But I haven't really done any of that before I built the bus. So no, I just watch a lot of videos. I do a lot of Googling, and I watched a lot of YouTube videos before I started building my bus. So yeah, I just taught myself how to do stuff watching other people. Um, I often thought would have been nice to have some kind of like design background or like building experience before I started, but I got through, and yeah, yeah. So no, I don't have any engineering background. Uh, okay. All right, so that's all I have. I'm gonna hopefully, as I said, I've still got a few more things to tidy up here. I'm still trying to sell off the last few things that I'm not bringing into the bus, and but I am going to start doing some short trips with Pepper in the next couple of months. So, and I will be like doing videos of that. So hopefully, now that all of this stuff I've been dealing with this year is finally coming to an end, and I can see light at the end of the tunnel. Hopefully I'll be able to start doing more videos again. So yeah, hopefully you guys won't have to wait quite so long before my next video. I'm actually, as I said, I'm going to be going. I'm turning 50 in just a couple of weeks now, actually, which is it's a bit scary to think of it that way. But I'm going to be doing a short camping trip, like to get away for my birthday. So I will definitely be doing a video on that, because that will be Pepper's first overnight trip in the bus. So I'm not sure how it's going to go. But yeah, I'll definitely be videoing that. So that'll be like in a few weeks. You'll get to see that. Um, yeah. So yeah. So I might call it quits there, guys, because it's past my bedtime. Thank you for watching. Like I said, I just decided to do this on a whim, so I've never done a live before. But if you guys like this kind of video, I'm happy to do more lives in the future if you find it useful. Um, so yeah, but yeah, so hopefully I'll have another video out in the next few weeks on our first camping trip, or Pepper's first camping trip in the bus, which will hopefully be hopefully it will go well. Yeah, we'll see. If anything, it should make for an interesting video. So yeah, so thanks for watching, guys. I'm gonna call it quits there. If you've got any other questions or anything, just leave a comment below, or feel free to message me. I do try to respond to as many messages as I can. I've just been super busy the last few months, but hopefully things will start to settle down a bit now, and I'll get a bit more organized and have a bit more time. But yeah, definitely just leave the comments below, and I'll try to answer as many as I can. All right. Thanks for watching, guys.